want to talk some more about styling tables. We have our HTML here, and this is pretty fine, but we're going to use some CSS to make this a little bit different. Okay, so first off, let's make a change to our table, and let's center it. And the way we center, again, is using a margin 0 auto. And that's going to center the item in the middle of the page. Again, we use text align to center the text within, but the margin 0 auto to center the item itself. And we can see that taking place there. We can also apply a width to that if we wish. Maybe we want to go 100% across the screen, and you can kind of see it filling that space right there. We can also use something called cell padding. Well, there used to be a tag called cell padding, but it's been deprecated out since then, and we just use padding at this point. And so we can kind of go through and say we want to add 5 pixels to every side, and you can kind of see that padding being applied there. We can also apply something called border spacing, and border spacing looks like this, where it'll go through and make our borders a little bit wider in different cases there. We can also do something called a border collapse. And a border collapse takes it where we have these 2 lines. If I take our border spacing down to 1 pixel, they'll get really close to each other. Let's go to no pixels and look at that. And it looks like we got double thick lines, right? Because they're 2 lines. But what we're going to do with that is we're going to do this border collapse, and then we're going to collapse it in on itself like that. And it takes the 2 lines and just makes them one, rather than having the 2 of them next to each other. So we can use that. We can also use background colors if we want to. And so maybe we want to say on our table headers, we want to give a background color of, we want to use that blue. So I'll go grab, I think that's blue right there, and put that on to our table header. I probably want to change the color over to be white then, and you can see how that's being applied now and looks a little bit nicer there. We can also use something called vertical align, and vertical align looks at our items and tries to align them up and down. So we'll do a vertical align bottom. Now I don't think it'll affect too many other than this 20 years. You can see how this was pushed down to the bottom, but by default it was being centered. We could push that up to the top if we wanted to as well, and you can see that kind of getting shoved up there. I don't use that one a whole lot, to be honest with you. Another thing we could use is background image. I'm not going to apply a background image, but it's going to work the same as a background color. We could apply it to the whole table. We could apply it to, whatever we wanted. And then you can also use something called caption sides. So we could go take our, I don't know if we apply that to the table, I believe. Yeah, let's just do this. So we'll do a caption side, and we'll do a bottom. And by default, it is set to the top. So you could go through and add a caption. You could say table 1, types of monkeys, or something like that. More than often, though, we'd want to change the fonts. Maybe we want to say a font size 1.2, rem. We could change the font type. I mean, all the CSS that you're probably used to using should probably be applied here in appropriate ways to make it look good. There's a lot of CSS tables out there, and if you just look up, CSS for tables, you're going to get just pages and pages of various tables that have just been really styled to the extreme and just look a lot nicer than a typical table. But you can see our example here. It's nothing too special, but it does look a little bit better than it did.